Hi, and welcome to the Ladies' Room. I'm Judy McDowell, your host, and today I have with me John Nicholson, who is an extremely interesting person, and he has an organization called the CCRG, and that means Concerned Citizens
Close.
for Restructuring Government?
Very close. Citizens Committee for Restructuring Government.
Will you tell me a bit about that?
Sure. In relatively brief synopsis, I'm sure we all are aware of certain things that are happening in our world. And there are certain entities in government that need to be replaced with people that really represent our best interests.
Like the entire Congress?
No arguments here. Basically, what we do is our goal is to neutralize the criminally insane that are destroying our world and implement the necessary philosophies, technologies, economics, and waste management principles to help ensure our survivability and sustainability for present and future generations.
Now, you have a really interesting past. You are, without saying exactly, you have very high-level government, but also you're a pilot, a scuba diver, sailor, all kinds of stuff. So as above, so below. You've been all over the place and in very high places in government and know a lot of stuff that you probably shouldn't know. And that they don't want you to know, and that they certainly don't want us to know.
Absolutely.
But I don't know these chemtrails that are going around. I have a few friends that are like over the moon about them, and then I have other friends that have Googled it and say, oh, it's a hoax. What is the deal with chemtrails? I mean, we're going to talk a lot about the environment and stuff that's going on, but in particular, because we see them all the time out here. What is it?
Basically, there's a law on the books to ban chemtrails over Long Island. I spoke a while back. If you Google, go to YouTube and do a YouTube search, first name, last name, and geoengineering. I was actually the first speaker to speak at government hearings to ban chemtrail spraying.
You're also a scientist.
I'm sorry?
Aren't you also a scientist?
No, I'm not. People occasionally, I do intelligence work. We're a research organization, so I dabble in many different things.
Okay.
But as far as a formal training, no. But we cover all aspects: sea, air, land, space, waste management, healing technologies. I noticed you discussed the Health Week that's coming up. And basically we have, not allowed to use the word cures, but we can basically reverse almost everything. Everything is basically perpetrated upon us to keep us either sick, broke, weak, so that we can't do anything against the opposition that's raping and destroying our world, basically.
Well, they would rather keep us zombies, taking Ambien at night, getting up in the morning and drinking coffee, reading our newspaper, working like little worker bees, coming home, drinking beer, taking an Ambien, going to sleep, and they have a population that doesn't do anything. We're not even free thinkers anymore because we're zoned out all the time. So how does a person get off that treadmill and get themselves going to, I mean, how can we restructure and reorganize the government?
If I may, I would just like to supplement a statement on the chemtrails.
Oh, right.
They're spraying some highly toxic chemicals, aluminum, barium, and other harmful situations. I'm sure you've noticed a lot of people come up with respiratory disease, sinusitis, bronchitis is through the roof. Respiratory disease used to be way down on the list of things that are very bad for our health, like number 7. Now it's number 3. The number 3 killer is now respiratory disease. When you breathe in something called Morgellons disease, which are nanoviruses that are being engineered to cause tremendous problems, reconfigurements of our DNA helix. It's very, very evil technology. Chemtrails need to stop. There's a pending law on the books, and we'd like to get Long Islanders involved to not only petition, but to very aggressively stop this process, not only happening over Long Island, but across the rest of our world. There's nothing good. There's nothing good about chemtrails. They're not making the world a better place. They're making us sicker, weaker, destroying the proper functioning of our mind. A lot of people are having memory issues. This is not Alzheimer's. These are externally induced.
From the air we breathe. The air is so polluted with
correct.
this stuff.
And certain toxins that are approved, FDA approved for our foods, they're in our foods that are also destroying our health and manipulating our genome as well.
Well, the GMO stuff, our DNA can't even recognize it, so it just stores it in all our joints. That's why everybody's getting arthritis now, or fat. It really is just criminal that.
It is.
How do we stop this GMO thing?
The interesting thing about GMO is when you splice a virus gene into produce or any other food, when a virus enters your body, it has a protein bonding agent. That protein bonding agent bonds to the cell-making machine of your body and says, now you're going to make more copies of me. You could literally inject, let's say, somebody who lost their arm or leg from a serious accident, and every cell in our body has a blueprint of how we're supposed to be normally. So the virus would read the blueprint and notice that you're missing a limb or you need another organ, and it would stimulate the gene to begin the process of growing a new limb, replacing. We don't need to do.
And I've heard of that happening.
Yes, we don't need to do kidney transplants and all this crap. That's all BS, basically. We have the technology to fix everything and turn the world into a beautiful, beautiful place, and there's a certain criminal element that stands in the way of what we could have and where we are and the degeneration that's happening within our world. So GMO has to stop, and not only that, but we can also reverse GMO, which is something nobody's going to talk about. If you study molecular biology, we can actually introduce something into our environment to bring the genome back of crops back from the to mimic the gene of the 1800s. So you can bring foods back to a highly organic state, but they're not going to give us this technology. They're not going to, we can't just ask for it. We can't vote. Voting doesn't work. We have to take a little bit more of an aggressive approach towards implementing what's necessary to save our world. Otherwise, the degeneration is going to continue.
It's like that movie Network, you know, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. I think that people, a large amount of people, and certainly with the internet, everybody can connect, and we need to say we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore because GMO foods are poisoning. I mean, when we grew up, we didn't have it. So our generation is basically healthy from the get-go. But our children and their children raised a lot on processed foods.
Correct.
And they're sickly kids.
Correct.
They're not normal kids. They've got all kinds of issues going on that we just ran out the door and played in the dirt and, you know, got cut and put a little mercurochrome on it or something and went right on playing.
Correct.
And now if a kid gets a sniffle, they're in bed for a week.
Absolutely. And there's nothing, our body has a self-heal program. When you cut yourself, a signal is sent to begin the healing process. Same thing if you have any type of internal damage or internal organ failure, you can remove the interference so the body can heal itself. Well, between the microwaves from cell phones and food additives and GMO products and viruses and Plum Island and things like that, it's very hard for our body to correct itself and go back to the proper sequence. So we have a plan on how to reverse that process as well.
And can you talk about that plan?
I'd rather do it it's a little extensive. I'd rather do it possibly on another show.
Oh, okay.
But you can go to our website and get some preliminary information. But we can reverse literally nearly every issue health-wise, everything. But they won't, there's no money in it. You know,
No, well, that's the problem. They want to push the pharmaceuticals because they're all invested in the pharmaceuticals.
Exactly.
Back like 35 years ago, 60 Minutes did an expose on the pharmaceutical companies, and all of the investors, all the cabinet members, and Congress, they are all the good old boys, all are the big investors in the pharmaceutical industry, and every ad you see on TV is take a pill for this, take a pill for that, take a pill. And it's just amazing the disclaimers but it could do this, it could do that, it could do that, it could do that, it could do that, and be fatal. And still people take the pills.
Minor side effects include headache, nausea, and death.
And death.
Right.
And literally death.
It's
it is
insanity.
It is
insanity.
insane.
Right. Exactly.
How do we get rid of these people?
You mentioned something about 60 Minutes. Before I answer your question, I would like to say something to your audience pertaining to fluoride. Fluoride was used by the Nazis in the prison camps to keep the prisoners docile and sheep-like. It was also used in insecticides and rodenticides. Fluoride should not be in drinking water, toothpaste, nothing.
Nothing.
Everyone's always like, prove it, prove it, prove it. No problem. CCRG has plenty of proof. Look up a lawsuit, Dr. William Marcus versus the EPA. Dr. William Marcus was the chief toxicologist of the EPA back in the 90s. He was fired from his job for exposing that fluoride is toxic. It's a carcinogen. He was fired around 96. He sued them, got his job back, because remember, as the chief toxicologist, he has access to electron spectroscopy and other analytical equipment, so you're not going to say he's full of you-know-what.
Right.
Sued them, got his job back, $50,000 in compensatory damages, and 60 Minutes was supposed to do a show on Dr. Marcus. Did you ever see it?
No.
Correct. Fluoride is one of the biggest conspiracies.
So fluoride is used to keep people docile too.
Correct.
So even if you're not taking the Xanax and the Ambien,
Correct.
you're using the fluoride twice a day.
Correct.
And does it at least help you sleep?
It actually cuts your lifespan considerably.
Really?
It's a cumulative poison unless you do chelation therapy to expel these
And just
toxins.
for the brief time that it's in your mouth.
It collects. And if you're brushing, which most people are, it's probably one of the most horrific additives in our personal hygiene products imaginable. And something needs to be done to stop fluoridation of municipalities.
Well, at least out here we have well water, so we don't have the fluoride. But now all the pharmaceuticals are really seeping through. I mean, God knows what's in our water now.
Correct. Correct. And one of the things that we proposed was electron spectroscopy of everything. And post that, like we need to create a new FDA of the people. So this way we can take foods, personal hygiene products, water, our atmosphere, run it through electron spectroscopy, which magnifies.
What is electron
Everybody's spectroscopy. Everybody's familiar with what a microscope does
Yeah.
with a series of lenses.
Yeah.
500, 1,000 magnification. Electron spectroscopy can go up into the millions.
Okay.
So now you know
you
the
can
parts.
actually see the whole cell and
Correct.
the electrons and the protons.
Correct. And you can analyze in the parts per million and parts per billion what's in our food, air, water, etc. And that's what we need to do. We need to have an electron spectroscopy lab that will analyze everything and post the sites on our website, which everyone can see.
And do it quickly.
Yes.
Don't take 25 years to study something and
Absolutely.
25 years later pull it off the market because, oh, sorry,
Correct. Because
it's carcinogenic.
correct. These
Duh.
stall tactics allow them to implement new pharmaceuticals, chemtrail spraying for more behavioral control and modification. The more time we waste, the more technology they're implementing to control us and make us more docile, sheep-like, and also limit our lifespan. They're looking for a specific genome. So they want to eliminate, if you have, let's say, if you're a 2-strand helix person and you're intimate with somebody who's, let's say, a 6 or an 8-strand helix, that 8-strand helix person may have many diseases, they may be a carrier, but when they're intimate with somebody of a lower helix, that lower helix person can't handle it and they will pass on. That's why there's certain people live to 100 and certain people live to 30 or 40. And the lie they tell everybody is we're living longer. We're really not. Go to 10 hospitals, check the morgues. They're full of people 30, 40 years old dead of heart attack, stroke, atherosclerosis. But the 10-strand or higher DNA helix people, they're living to 100, and that's what they're focusing on. But it's basically BS. We need to get very aggressive on how to solve these issues.
Whoa. So what we've been talking about is called the NWO system.
Correct.
What
The
is
New
that
World Order.
New World Order. Oh, yeah.
Right.
The New World Order.
Right. The bad guys, their job is to implement whatever's necessary to kill off certain undesirables and to create a manipulation of our genome to create a type of hybrid human that will perpetrate their agenda. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So,
Yeah.
and that's also why a lot of fluoridation doesn't happen out here, because the guys that basically run the world are called Freemasons. Now, you can look up Illuminati, and there's a Bilderberg group and all this other, right, right. It's all under Freemasonry. You look on the back of your dollar bill, what do you see? A pyramid,
Yeah.
the eye on top, New World Order, Novus Ordo Seclorum right underneath, and a banner. That's why if you go to these towns where they don't fluoridate, most likely you got a lot of corrupt individuals living there, and they don't want fluoride, but it's
Yeah.
okay for everybody else.
Yeah.
So getting back to how to solve the
There's
problem.
like 3,000 of them, and there's billions of us.
Thank you for noticing that.
There used to be, back in the 60s, they said there were just 13 families, and then, I guess in the 70s I heard then there were 30 families, and I think that when people reach a certain amount of wealth, now there's, it used to be $1 million was a lot of money. Now you have to be billionaire, but when you get to that status, they call you in and say, look, this is the game, and you have to play the game this way.
Or you have a boating accident.
Or you have
or a car accident, or a heart attack, or a stroke.
An unfortunate accident, or your children can meet with an unfortunate accident. Correct. So of course everybody does it their way. So so you have a lot of solutions to heal the planet. So how can we get off of oil and coal and all this stuff? Everybody wants to. And why don't, every time we get on our high horse about solar energy and stuff, they say, oh, it'll take 10 years. Oh, it'll take 10 years. Well, 30 years ago when we started, we would have it now for 20 years if they had started 30 years ago. So why do they keep putting it off? How can we get out from under the thumb of the oil companies?
If you have a car that runs on hydrogen, water, or magnets, obviously the oil companies lose all that power. And money is the mother's milk of politics. The
Right.
oil business, the nuclear industry,
Yeah.
the mother's milk of politics. At this point, I'm going to get a little more aggressive because you can't solve this problem at the voting booth. It's not going to happen. You can't elect this official, that official. It doesn't work. Our Constitution specifically states that we need to have a civilian military. And what we do is we are recruiting people from law enforcement, military personnel, and the average citizen who realizes that there's something wrong with our world and we need to get together real quick, regardless of race, creed, color, and religion, and create a private military, a private police force. Once we have that, then we can begin to put these government leaders, including people in very high positions in the White House and in the intelligence communities, NSA, CIA, places like that, and they must be physically removed from office. It's not going to happen at the voting booth. There are approximately 300 million people in this country. There's about 3,000 that are running everything. In school, when you had a bully, a couple of guys would get together, hey, you're gone.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that here? How are a handful of individuals controlling over 300 million people? Chemtrails, pharmaceuticals, occultic technologies, things like that. So the only way to get rid of these people is perhaps somebody out there would be interested in backing an organization because, again, I used to make $500,000 a year. Again, pilot, sailor, scuba diver, travel around the world, everything's great. As soon as I start my organization, everything goes into the toilet. So there's an invisible force that manipulates the finances of the world. It's not, this gentleman might have $300 million, this gentleman might be worth $20,000. The guy with $300 million doesn't mean he's smarter. He's with the NWO agenda. Yeah. Maybe not even realizing it. Maybe he sells an ingredient or a part that helps the New World Order agenda. So we need somebody to get behind us with some funding to start this civilian intelligence, civilian military, civilian police force so that we can neutralize these entities, place them into psychiatric facilities, and when we start examining what's inside of them, in their blood, in their minds, things like that, it'll be very clear why they're criminally insane. So we're not looking to just go and just start throwing people in jail and things like that.
No, but they would look to detain any group that looked like it was going to be a military group. And you're talking about like people getting guns and things?
Well, that's a part of it. However, also you need to look at what type of military we endorse. Our military, about 51% of our taxes goes towards the military-industrial complex. Yeah. Chemical, nuclear, biological, anti-proton weapons to kill everything 1,000 times. Where's the military to protect our oceans? Where's the military to protect our environment? Where's the military?
That's what they should be doing.
Thank you. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to start a military, literally,
so maybe this could be a peaceful revolution where we say, no more war, you're not going to Iraq, you're not going overseas, you're not going to get involved with Syria. You're going to now work on projects to contain Fukushima, clean up the Pacific Ocean. What do we do about that?
We can actually introduce a proton into a radioactive stockpile to render it almost completely inert. Over 12 tons of plutonium went into our oceans. Our oceans manufacture approximately 70% of the Earth's oxygen supply. The plankton, which are the beginning of the marine food chain, through photosynthesis, creates 70% of the Earth's oxygen supply. Well, after Fukushima and ocean dumping the last how many years, and mercury and all this other stuff, it's not doing too good.
Plastic.
That's a whole other nightmare.
Plastics is, it's,
Yes.
geez, on David Letterman, there was a scientist, 8 years ago, that said that the sea of plastic was as big as the state of Texas. Now they're saying there's 5 of them, and it's as big as the United States, but the way the water goes, I forget what the term is, but it all goes to the North China Sea. Boy, if it was off the coast of Boston, we'd be all screaming about it, right? But it's in the North China Sea. But it's been in the water so long, the salt water, that it's breaking up. So it's all now these little bits of plastic all on the top of the water. The fish are eating it, the birds are eating it, but not only that, it's stopping natural photosynthesis. So it's killing the bottom of the ocean. And they are cutting open birds and fish now and finding Bic lighters and combs and
Correct.
you know the circles that go around beer cans and all kinds of plastic junk in all the sea life. It really is criminal. It really is criminal, and these people need to be stopped. It seems like a daunting situation. Daunting.
Well, if you throw enough spiritual protection and resources at a good plan, we might pull it off. But the problem is we all have a program called what I call morality police syndrome. We think that if we just expose something or talk about it, the morality police are going to come out and make it all better. It doesn't work like that. No. We got to roll up our sleeves, and we got to get out there, and we got to take care of business. And there has never been anybody out there in a public forum that can discredit me for wanting to build a civilian military and police force to neutralize the criminally insane that are raping and destroying our world and children.
How do you get into the Pentagon to get a hold of them to throw them into an institution? Because they're all nut jobs in there. War. They're the war hawks.
More military personnel are starting to take our side. They just have to be careful. They don't want to lose their pensions. They don't want to be court-martialed.
No,
if
they don't
see,
want to be in a detention center.
Correct. But do you remember a while back, Louis Farrakhan led a 1 million man march?
Yep.
Okay. We need another 1 million man march, only not to go down there and do this.
Yeah.
Very, very simple. We have all the evidence, all the proof, all the dead bodies. It's time to kick some butt, basically. And we need somebody of affluence that is willing to sit down and listen to a plan to start neutralizing these criminally insane entities. And yes, they need to be removed from office, they need to be arrested, they need to be placed into psychiatric facilities for extensive evaluation, and it'll make total sense. But we need to get more aggressive. We have to stop talking and start doing. And we can't just do it at the voting booths. We have to get a lot more aggressive. And we're willing to take the risk. We also need what's known as a witness protection program. There are plenty of government agents. There are children right now that are being held hostage in these cults. They're being abused. You can look up the Franklin cover-up online. You can also get information on our website. We need a witness protection program to help these witnesses, help these children have a safe haven so they can testify, which is only going to help the civilian military and police force do their job easier. Once we have a greater constituency and understanding, then we could begin to implement the plan.
Can you give us any of the, like you say you have the wherewithal to reverse cancer and certain diseases. Can you give us any kind of a cleanse or
Absolutely.
Something that people can take away today that they can start doing to rid their body of the toxins that they've collected?
One of the BS statements that is made by the medical community is the cancer spread to the liver. No, the cancer started in the liver, okay? The liver is the filtering organ, okay? So now what happens is for $25, you can go to a supermarket and buy some ingredients. And if your audience contacts us, we can send them the Red Alert newsletter, which the last 5 pages contain a lot of this healing information. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to do a liver flush every few months.
Milk thistle and stuff like that?
Not strong enough. What you do is you drink apple cider vinegar for about 2 weeks. It softens up the stones. They're calcified cholesterol stones clogging up your liver right now. There could also be parasites in there. And parasiticism is not really discussed in the mainstream medical community, and parasiticism is a main cause of a lot of illness.
Well, they say that, I don't believe I have any parasites, but they say that 85% of humanity has parasites.
It's higher. Especially the chemtrails are dropping a nanoparasite into us. So you have to breathe, right? So as soon as you breathe, you're breathing in these Morgellons nanoparasites. So apple cider vinegar, a diluted version, which we give you the specific formula. And again, we don't give medical advice. We give information that we have received. We're not doctors, but let's just say a lot of people that had some very serious problems are now doing jumping jacks. Okay. So you mix a few other chemicals that help you flush the stones out, and you'll see them.
It's like baking soda or something.
Actually,
apple cider vinegar?
The formula is you drink apple cider vinegar and water for about 2 weeks to soften the stones. Then you do Epsom salt and water to dilate the tubes, and then you drink extra virgin olive oil and grapefruit juice, and you go to sleep. You wake up the next day, and you will see anywhere from 20 to 100 pea-sized stones come out of your body. If you don't see it the first time, do it a second time. Give it a couple of weeks and do it again. And then if
so
you
it's like a 6-week process.
Yeah.
Two and two.
Correct.
It's really interesting.
And you will see the toilet full of these stones. And then you can calculate, well, what if they were all in one shot? You're missing a golf ball to a baseball from your liver just from the calcified stones, which nobody from the AMA is really talking about.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's insane.
Well, this half hour has flown, and we didn't talk about a bunch of stuff that you wanted to cover, but CCRG sounds really interesting.
Thank you.
I hope you come again, and we can talk about the rest of this stuff.
Love to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. So John Nicholson, look at his website, CCRG. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, ladies, give yourself lots of room. Room for love, room for fun, room to grow, and room to glow. And check out this information. This is important. We need to save the planet.
And the women are a big part of doing it.
Yeah, we could do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now I took what I want, but you find